Gotta Read This for elementary educators. And my name is Jackie Parch, and I am a librarian in the School Corps program at Multnomah County Library. And I will let my coworkers introduce themselves as they present today. And we would like to begin first with a land acknowledgement. Multnomah County is sited upon the ancestral homelands of the Multnomah, Molalla, Cathlamet, Chinook, Clackamas, Tualatin, Kalapuya, and many other indigenous nations. These nations have become the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, as well as the Chinook Nation and the Cowlitz Nation in Washington State. Land acknowledgements recognize and respect the enduring relationship that indigenous people have with their traditional homelands. The effects of colonization can still be felt today, and land acknowledgements are a small step down the path of repair, reconciliation, and cultural revitalization. And that land acknowledgement is courtesy of Melanie Fye. So in this workshop, we're going to be covering books that are great to use in the K through 5 curriculum. And this is a two-part workshop. So in this afternoon's workshop, we're going to be covering language arts, geography and multicultural books, government, politics, and social justice, world history, and books about communities. And then in Wednesday's workshop, which is the second half, we'll cover arts, US history, math, health and guidance, and science. If you have any questions for us, please put them in the Q&A thing that you can see down at the bottom of your screen. That allows us to keep better track of the questions. Sometimes when things are in the chat, they get lost, and by the time we get to the question and answer time at the end today, they may have gone so far in the chat that we might not be able to find them. So if you can use the Q&A, that's great because it saves all the questions for us. We're also going to be sharing a lot of links with you in the chat. And so if you happen to miss those links as they're going by, don't worry. We will be sending you a follow-up email after today's workshop so that you can catch all of those links later on. We're going to be recording this. I'm sure you heard that at the beginning. So you'll be able to view it and share it later on with others. And we're going to be adding the recording to Multnomah County Library's YouTube channel. And I'm going to go ahead and show you my slides because I have a picture of what our YouTube channel looks like. Okay, here we go. And you move your picture so that I can make this nice and big for everyone. Okay. So this is what the library's YouTube channel looks like. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but you know, there's this search bar at the top of YouTube that searches all of YouTube. But this little search box here that is within the library's YouTube page, you can always use that little search box there to search for whatever videos that you're looking for on the library's YouTube channel. So if you're looking for this one, you could search for Gotta Read This, and it would come up with, at this point, it would come up with last year's. But in a week or two, when we get this one posted, then this one will be available there as well. Last week on Thursday, we also did a webinar called Talking Equity and Social Justice, and that's also going to be available soon on the YouTube channel. So you could search for that one by typing in Talking Equity. Pretty soon, we're also going to be finishing our novelties videos for educators, parents, and kids. And these feature recent discussable fiction for grades 4 through 8. And when you fill out the evaluation at the end of this webinar, one of the questions it will ask is if you would like to be notified when those videos are available. They will also be on YouTube. Please think of this presentation as a teaser for what School Corps librarians can do for educators and what the library can do for this community. To use School Corps services, you need to live or work in Multnomah County, which is the tax base that funds us. Although anyone can look at the book list we've already made on our website. Multnomah County educators, if you would like a list of books or websites for your students on the topics that we're covering today, or other topics that you think of, we are going to be sharing the link for School Corps' menu of services. And if you find something on there called Assignment Alert, that's a form you can fill out to let us know if you would like a book list or a list of websites. The library also has a service called My Librarian, which does similar things for smaller groups like families and parents and homeschoolers. Also would like to let you know about something new that we have this year, and that is our Library Connect service. It is available in most school districts now in Multnomah County. And the cool thing about Library Connect is it lets students use their student ID number as a Multnomah County library card number. So students can access the same resources as any other library card holder without having to carry a separate library card. So the books that we are featuring today are ones that were published in 2020 and early 2021. We chose the books based on awards they had won, on starred reviews, on their relation to the curriculum of our local schools. This workshop is for educators of grades K through 5, but if you also work with older students or you know others who do, we're going to be creating book lists for those grade levels too. And that's something that you can request when you fill out the evaluation at the end of the webinar as well. So we're going to be sharing a link to the book list for this webinar in the chat. And on that list, we've included the author and title of each book that we're talking about, and the applicable standards that go with each section. We've also included a range of grade levels that you could use with that title with. We specified a pretty wide span, so maybe a book could be read aloud to younger children, but older children can read that same book independently. And like I mentioned earlier, we're going to have an evaluation at the end, so please fill that out. It helps us to design our future programs. And that's also where you can request a certificate of attendance that you can then use to submit to your school district. If you have any difficulties with filling that out, don't worry, because we will also be including that link when we send you the follow-up email after the webinar. All right, so let's get started with talking about some books. I'm going to do this first section, which is books that are for use in language arts. And the first section I have is poetry books. This book is In the Woods by David Elliott and illustrated by Rob Dunleavy for grades 1 through 4. David Elliott, who's written a number of poetry books about animals in different ecosystems, now takes on forest animals like bears, bobcats, raccoons, skunks, deer, and moose. Some of the poems rhyme, while others are in free verse. All of them are filled with figurative language. Short profiles on the final pages of the book offer fun facts about the animals. For example, I learned that fisher cats are the only North American animals that eat porcupines. This poem is A Nest by Irene Latham with art by Johanna Wright, grades 3 through 6. Latham introduces readers to a particular type of found poem. She begins with a 37-line poem that she calls The Nest, and you can see the beginning of that poem here on this slide. Then she introduces the Nestlings, 101 shorter poems in which all of the words, except the titles, were drawn from that original Nest poem. She includes lots of tips at the end for writing your own nest and nestling poems. Things like joining two words together to make a new word, or experimenting with the placement of words on the page, or using verbs as nouns or nouns as verbs. Everything Comes Next, new and collected poems by Naomi Shihab Nye, illustrated by Rafael Lopez, grades 3 through 6. Well, it looks like my slides are freezing up again. All right, I'm going to try to keep going. We'll see if it happens again. We might need to swap out who's showing slides. This is a collection of more than 100 poems by Naomi Shihab Nye, the Young People's Poet Laureate. It contains some of her most beloved poems, as well as some new ones. Divided into 3 sections, the poems cover her childhood, war and displacement. Her father was a Palestinian immigrant, and similarities among diverse people. Okay, I still seem to be frozen. Does somebody else want to try presenting? Oh, no, hang on, here we are. We did it. I moved ahead. All right, The One Thing You'd Say by Linda Sue Park and illustrated by Robert Say-Hang, grades 3 through 5. Miss Chang has given her students an assignment. Imagine that your home is on fire. You're allowed to save one thing. Your family and pets are safe, so don't worry about them. Your most important thing, any size, a grand piano, fine. Each of the Shijo poems that follow are a student's response. Some of the students save the things that you would expect, their phones, laptops, sneakers, but what others of them choose might surprise you. Hard-Boiled Bugs for Breakfast and Other Tasty Poems by Jack Proletsky with drawings by Ruth Chan, grades 3 through 6. Hard-boiled bugs, stir-frying pandas, and the world's most intelligent chicken are all the subjects of the poems in this book, with more than 100 poems marked by Proletsky's trademark silliness and wordplay. Most are rhyming, with a few examples of haiku and concrete poetry, and all have strong kid appeal. Hello, Earth, Poems to Our Planet by Joyce Sidman, illustrated by Maren Osiain Laura, grades 3 through 5. In these 22 free verse poems, Sidman addresses our planet directly. The subject matter includes science topics such as volcanoes, earthquakes, landforms, ecosystems, and weather. The paintings have plenty of details for readers to explore, and the book concludes with notes about the science behind the poems. All right, so next I'm going to tell you about a few traditional stories. The Sea-Ringed World, Sacred Stories of the Americas, written by Maria Garcia Esperon, illustrated by Amanda Mijangos, translated by David Bowles for grades 4 through 8. This collection of sacred stories from the Americas, originally published in Mexico, features narratives from the Arctic to the southern tip of South America. There we go, that's the right slide. Full of vivid language, the stories have varied themes, such as creation, war, love, tragedy, and heroism, and they're accompanied by visually striking stylized art. Back matter includes a pronunciation guide, notes on the cultures, and a map. The Wolf's Trail, an Ojibwa story told by wolves, by Thomas D. Peacock, grades 4 through 7. Shishay, an elder wolf, is a storyteller for a litter of his nieces and nephews living somewhere in northern Minnesota. He tells the story of the parallel relationship between wolves and the Ojibwe people, going all the way back to the beginning, sharing it with both the young wolves and readers. Thomas Peacock is a member of the Fond du Lac band of the Ojibwe. And The Feathered Serpent and the Five Sons, a Mesoamerican creation myth, written and illustrated by Duncan Tonatiu, grades 1 through 4. Long ago, the gods tried 4 times to create humans, but were unsuccessful. So they gave the sacred bones of the humans to the god of the underworld. But Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent and god of knowledge, did not want to give up. So he undertook a long and dangerous journey to the underworld to get the bones back and create humans one last time. The author has included many words in Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs, still spoken by some indigenous groups today. All right, so now we're going to talk about wordless books. I always give a little plug for wordless books every year when I do this, because they're a great way for teaching the elements of a story, especially for kids who are struggling readers and might have a hard time when they're reading, comprehending text and being able to analyze character and setting and those elements of a story. But sometimes when they're able to be able to identify that was in a wordless book, it makes them understand a little bit better. And of course, wordless books are always a great bridge to being able to read and to be able to understand the elements of telling a story. So first I have Field Trip to the Ocean Deep, illustrated by John Hare for grades K through 2. When a child's class takes a field trip to the deep ocean, he gets distracted by a treasure chest and ends up getting left behind. All right, there we go. But he finds an amazing underground world. Could it be the lost city of Atlantis? And a friendly sea creature before being rescued by his teacher. This is a follow-up to a book that we shared, I think it was last year or the year before, called A Field Trip to Mars. Over the Shop by John Arno Lawson, illustrated by Kin Lang, grades 1 through 4. A lonely little girl and her grandparents need to rent the apartment above their shop, but its dilapidated condition is off-putting to most of the potential renters. Finally, a young couple appears, and despite the grandparents' reluctance, they arrange to rent the apartment. Their improvements end up transforming the nearby community. The more sophisticated art in this book will be appreciated by older students, and the illustrations are a great example of how character can be demonstrated without words. And now some beginning readers. Sunflower Lion, written and illustrated by Kevin Hankes for grades K through 1. A small lion journeys up a hill, takes a nap, has a dream, and returns home in this very simple story in 6 short chapters. The shape of a circle with a ruffled edge can signify multiple elements of the story: the sun, a flower, a cookie, and the lion. Hankes occasionally directs questions at the young reader too. What About Worms, written and illustrated by Ryan T. Higgins, grades K through 1. Tiger is big and brave. He's not afraid of anything except worms. And that means he can't enjoy the soil in a pot of flowers or biting into an apple because they might have worms. It turns out that worms are afraid of tigers too. But when the worms in this book see that that nice tiger has left them some soil and an apple, they think he might not be so scary after all. Maybe they even need to give him a hug. This is a honor book for the Geisel Award, which is the award given each year for the best beginning reader by the American Library Association. Where's Baby? Written and illustrated by Ann Hunter, grades pre-K through 1. Papa Fox doesn't know where Baby Fox is, so he sets out on a search. Can you see Baby Fox? No matter where Papa looks and what other animals he meets, he just can't seem to find Baby, who is always hiding just out of sight. The repetitive text, which also introduces prepositions, is ideal for beginning readers, and this was another Geisel honor book. See the Cat, 3 stories about a dog, by David LaRochelle, illustrated by Mike Wanautka, grades K through 2. This is Dog. He is the hero of this story, except that the narrator of the story doesn't seem to think so. The narrator seems to think that Dog is a cat. And the narrator is saying, see the cat. But the dog is answering, I'm not a cat, I'm a dog. Dog gets more and more frustrated with the narrator through the 3 stories in this book, especially when the narrator starts saying things that could get Dog hurt, like this scene right here. What if the snake bites him? Fortunately, Dog has a good plan to stop the narrator, and it just might work. This was the winner of the 2021 Geisel Award. I Do Not Like Stories by Andrew Larson and illustrated by Carrie Sukochev, grades K through 1. In this hybrid of a beginning reader and a wordless book, a young boy explains all the kinds of stories he doesn't like. He doesn't like stories about numbers or letters or deep, dark forests or boring old buildings. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the page, in wordless panels, the boy's cat has adventures that are related to his statements. At the very end, the boy concedes, I might like a story about a cat. Ty's Travels, Zip Zoom, by Kelly Starling Lyons and illustrated by Nina Mata, grades K through 1. Ty is so excited. He just got a scooter and he can't wait to try it out. He watches the other kids zooming by on their bikes, skateboards, and scooters. He wants to go. He imagines himself like a car on a racetrack, listening to the crowds cheering as he pushes off. But Ty doesn't zoom like a race car. He wobbles and wobbles again and even falls down. Riding a scooter is harder than he thought. Uh-oh, will Ty give up or try again? And this was another Geisel honor book. And The Bear in My Family, written and illustrated by Maya Tatsukawa, grades K through 1. The boy explains that it's tough to have a bear in your family, especially when you're the youngest. Bears can be messy and stubborn and steal your food. But sometimes it can be handy to have a bear around, like when the big kids are bullying you at the park. At the end of the book, the boy reveals to readers the bear's surprising true identity. This is also a Geisel Honor book. And finally, our next section is Writers, Writing, and Language. Out the Door, written and illustrated by Christy Hale, grades pre-K through 2. This picture book that introduces prepositions, a young girl travels from her Brooklyn home to school and back. Some of the prepositions are commonly used ones like at, down, along, and below, while others, like amid and aboard, are more unusual. The same prepositions used on her way to school are repeated on the trip home. A New Green Day, written and illustrated by Antoinette Portis, grades 1 through 4. All through a summer day, voices from nature pose a series of riddles to a young girl, such as this one. You can see this one here on the screen. I scribble on the walk in glistening ink. Read all about my nighttime travels, says the snail. The riddles are full of figurative language and they read like poetry, and some of them can actually be pretty challenging to figure out. And this is the last language arts book, Jump at the Sun, the true life tale of unstoppable story catcher Zora Neale Hurston, by Alicia D. Williams and illustrated by Jacqueline Alcantara, grades K through 3. As a child, Zora loved being sent to the general store, where she could sit on the porch and listen to her neighbors tell tall tales. In this picture book biography, Williams, the author of the Dewberry Honor book, Genesis Begins Again, tells the story of this writer who became known for her research and preservation of African-American folklore. The prose is similar to Hurston's, and it's full of colloquial and figurative language. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly. I'm a bilingual Spanish librarian at Multnomah County Library, and I am about to share my screen right now so that you can see things as long as I get other things out of the way. There we go. All right. So for this section, I'll be talking about geography and multicultural studies. And yes, this is mostly elementary age, and I will get started with the first book. Welcoming Elijah, a Passover Tale with a Tale, by Lislia Newman and illustrated by Susan Gall, grades pre-K through 1st. Inside a warm and cozy home, a young boy's family celebrates the Passover Seder. As he fills the ceremonial cup of wine for the prophet Elijah, breaks the middle matzah, and hears the story of the Jews' exodus from Egypt, a stray kitten shivers outside the home. When the time comes for the boy to open the door for the prophet Elijah, he finds the kitten waiting to be invited inside. The racially diverse family is warmly depicted, and the author's notes provides background on the Passover holiday and some of the traditional rituals of the Passover Seder. Our next book is Bedtime Bonnet by Nancy Redd, and it's illustrated by Anika Myers, grades pre-K through 1st. In my family, when the sun goes down, our hair goes up, says the young Black narrator of this story. She recounts how her intergenerational family get ready for bed. Her brother twists and tightens his locks. Her mother gathers her curls in a scarf, and her grandmother puts in rollers. But when the girl looks for her own bedtime bonnet, it's nowhere to be found. What will she do? This celebration of Black hair and family is sure to be popular with fans of Matthew Cherry's Hair Love. Our next book is Tanvi Leads the School Parade by Anna Kim, grades pre-K through 2nd. Tanvi, a Korean immigrant, is excited for her first day of school in America. Although many of the classroom activities and games are new to her, she participates as best she can, but the language barrier and different classroom culture make her feel excluded. Fortunately, that all changes at lunch when her classmates are interested in her food and chopsticks, leading to an impromptu parade and a new friend for Tanvi. Next book is Zara's New Eid Dress by Nafisa Abdul Rahim, pre-K through 3rd. Join Zara as she, with the support of her mother and Nana, searches for a new Eid dress that shows her individuality while reflecting her experiences as an African American Muslim girl. This culturally affirming picture book helps to reflect the love of family and what Ramadan means for Zara and her family. Next book is Our Favorite Day of the Year by A.E. Ali, illustrated by Rahele Jomper-Bell, pre-K through 3rd. Musa is nervous about making friends on his first day of kindergarten, but his teacher, Miss Gupta, introduces an activity that the children will present about their favorite holidays throughout the year, allowing the students to get to learn more about each other and their families. Musa shares about Eid with the help of his mom and learns about Rosh Hashanah from Mo, Christmas and Las Posadas from Moises, and Pi Day from Kevin. By the end of the year, the 4 boys become each other's best friends. Join the story of friendship between the boys as they bond over what they have in common while also celebrating each other's differences. I Am Every Good Thing by Derek Barnes and illustrated by Gordon C. James, pre-K through 3rd. This book celebrates Black boyhood through colorful, lively illustrations and affirming words. Each page reminds society of the goodness and humanity of Black boys. It ends with the powerful words, "I am worthy to be loved." 10 Ways to Hear Snow by Kathy Camper and illustrated by Kennard Pack, pre-K through 3rd. Kennard Pack. Lena travels through her snow-covered neighborhood to visit her grandma for Grape Leaf Day, where Lena helps her grandma, whose eyesight is worsening, make warak inab. As she heads over, Lena observes her community and describes the 9 different sounds she hears in the snow until she reaches her grandma's kitchen where they cook and play together. After Lena describes the sounds of snow to her grandma tells her about the 10th way to hear the snow. This is a story filled with sincerity and appreciation about the relationship between grandmother and granddaughter. Ritu Weshani by Amira Narvankar. Grades pre-K through 3rd. Aisha is excited for her cousin Ritu's wedding, but not everyone is happy that Ritu is marrying her girlfriend Chandi. At the ceremony, Aisha notices that a lot of family is missing, and when her cousin leads the traditional Barath wedding procession, some of the neighbors shout hateful things, and a group of protesters tries to stop the festivities. In the end, however, Aisha's love for her family saves the day. This book shows intersectionality in South Asian culture and LGBTQ culture and includes a number of words in Hindi. A Gift for Amma, Market Day in India by Meera Sridram and illustrated by Mariana Kabasa. Pre-K through 3rd. A girl transports readers to India through the local open marketplace as she decides what gift to buy for her Amma. She describes the vibrant colors and items she sees in the market: orange saffron and marigolds, pink lotus, indigo saris, yellow turmeric, rickrack, and so much more. What will she buy for her Amma? The author provides more details and pictures at the end of the book. Salma the Syrian Chef by Danny Ramadan and illustrated by Anna Braun, pre-K through 2nd. Selma and her mom are new to Canada. Selma's mom doesn't smile as she used to in Syria. Mama is busy learning English and trying to find a job. She also misses Papa, who's back in Syria. Selma tries to make her laugh, but Mama's smile doesn't seem very joyful. Selma comes up with a brilliant idea. She will make Mama smile by making her a traditional Syrian dish. With the help of her diverse friends at the Welcoming Center, she gathers the ingredients. Things don't go quite as planned, making Selma feel frustrated and sad, but with the support of her friends, Selma perseveres. She surprises Mama and makes her laugh with their not-so-perfect dish. Watercress by Andrea Wang and illustrated by Jason Chen. Grades pre-K through 3rd. While on a drive in their old Pontiac, a girl's family stops to pick some watercress on the side of the road. She reluctantly works alongside her family, hoping no one she knows will drive by. At dinner, the girl refuses to eat the watercress, thinking, I only want to eat vegetables from the grocery store. When her mother shares childhood memories of famine in China, the girl sees the watercress through new eyes. The Day Saida Arrived by Susana Gomez Redondo, illustrated by Sonia Wimmer, and translated by Lawrence Schimmel. Grades Kinder through 2nd. Saida recently arrived from Morocco. She speaks Arabic and misses her home terribly. She's new in school in Spain, and her classmate, the narrator, is determined to be her best friend. The two communicate through drawings, then learn about each other's language and culture. The story is told through lyrical text and stunning illustrations. Papa, Daddy, and Riley by Seamus Kirst, illustrated by Devin Holsworth, pre-K through 3rd. One day, a classmate asks Riley which one of her dads is her real dad. This concerns Riley because she feels she has to choose one of her dads now. The idea of having to choose torments her all day. At the end of the school day, she's distraught and tells her dads about her experience. Her dads explain that families are all different and what makes a family is love. 111 Trees by Reena Singh and illustrated by Marianne Ferrer. Kinder through 2nd. Sundar received comfort from trees after his mother died and later when his oldest daughter died. He also witnessed firsthand how the local mining operation was destroying his village's ecosystem. Sundar comes up with a brilliant idea. The villagers can plant 111 trees for every girl that is born. When Sundar shares his idea, the villagers are hesitant. Traditionally, the birth of girls was not celebrated. After presenting a well-thought-out plan, Sundar convinces them to give his idea a try. The results are life-changing for the village, particularly the girls in the village. Digging for Words, Jose Alberto Gutierrez and the Library He Built by Angela Burke-Kunkel and illustrated by Paula Escobar, pre-K through 3rd. Jose Alberto Gutierrez works the night shift as a trash collector in Bogota, Colombia. As he collects the trash in affluent parts of town, he gathers the books people have discarded. On the weekends, he opens the door to his home filled with books. Children from the neighborhood come to Jose's home, the only library nearby, and borrow treasured books from him. This true story is available in English and Spanish. My Maddie by Gail Pittman and illustrated by Violet Tobacco, pre-K through 3rd. A girl shares how her beloved caregiver, Maddie, is neither boy or girl. She explains many other things that are in neither and both, like a spork, dawn, hazel eyes, and so forth. At the end, she shares, some of the best things in the world are not one thing or the other, but in between, and kind of both, and something entirely, fantastically their own. Nana Akua Goes to School by Trisha Elam Walker and illustrated by April Harrison, grades Kinder through 2nd. Zura's Nana is her favorite person in the world, but Zura is hesitant to have her come to Grandparents' Day at school. Nana was raised in Ghana where, following local traditions, she received tribal markings on her face. Zura has seen people react negatively to Nana before. Will her classmates be scared or make fun of Nana? Fortunately, Nana knows just what to do for her school visit. It involves an African quilt and some face paint. Soon Zura understands how special her and Nana Akua's relationship is and about how our differences make us who we are. All Because You Matter by Tammy Charles and illustrated by Brian Collier, grades pre-K through 3rd. Moving words and beautiful images describe to Black and brown children that they matter, that their loved ones matter, and those who look like them matter. The words and illustrations follow the life of a Black child from the time their ancestors worked long days in the sun, building, inventing, and dreaming of their children and great-grandchildren from first steps to their futures. The narrator tells the child that though others may mock their traditional name and show them violence, and though they may face struggles, they will also see people take a breath, take a stand, take a knee, because Black lives will always matter. The Ocean Calls, a Henyo mermaid story by Tina Cho and illustrated by Jess X. Snow. Grades Kinder through 3rd. True-to-life illustrations take the reader to South Korea in the province of Jeju, where a population of Korean women follows a centuries-old tradition of diving into deep waters without oxygen tanks to find seafood. Diane, the main character, is learning how to become one of these divers, a hanyo, from her grandma. Although she is afraid, Diane bravely goes into the ocean with Grandma and discovers treasures. The Range Eternal by Louise Erdrich, illustrated by Steve Johnson, Kinder through 3rd. An Indigenous girl considers how the family's wooden stove, Range Eternal, is the heart of her family's home in the Turtle Mountains of North Dakota. During the winters, the family finds comfort in the warm food the stove provides. The stove even keeps Wendigo, the ice monster, away by keeping everyone warm at night. Time passes, the wood stove is replaced with a modern stove. The girl, now a woman living in the city, feels something is missing until she sees a wood stove like Range Eternal in a store window. The Arabic Quilt, an Immigrant Story by Aya Halil and illustrated by Anaï Sermertian. Kanzi, an Egyptian-American girl, worries about not fitting in at her new school in Washington State, and her fears are confirmed when a classmate mocks her mother for speaking Arabic. Kanzi's teacher assures her that being bilingual is beautiful, and when she hears about Kanzi's quilt from her Egyptian grandmother, the teacher leads the school in a quilt-making project, a warm story of a girl finding pride in her language and culture. Home is in Between by Mitali Perkins and illustrated by Lavanya Naidu. When Shanti immigrates to the US, she finds herself living in 2 different worlds. Inside her apartment, Shanti feels like she's back in her small village in India. Inside, the music, language, dance, and foods are familiar and comfortable. But when Shanti steps out of her apartment, everything is strange and new. There is so much to learn. Words, holidays, songs, money, even manners are different in the new town. Shanti moves back and forth between the 2 worlds, but finds it exhausting. Then, Shanti has a brilliant idea that brings these 2 worlds a little closer together. The Most Beautiful Thing by Kaukalia Yang and illustrated by Kwao Lei. Grades Kinder through 3rd. In this autobiographical picture book, a Hmong refugee girl longs for the things her family can't afford: ice cream, new school clothes, and braces. Her elderly grandmother, revered by the family, notices her longing and shares stories of her own childhood as an orphan in Laos, where she has to raise her siblings, forage barefoot in the forest for food, and even face down a tiger. It's just the perspective the girl needs to realize what is the most beautiful thing. A Journey Towards Hope by Victor Hinojosa and Court Voorhees and illustrated by Susan Guevara. Kinder through 3rd. Many brave children leave their homes. They cross Central America and Mexico with the hope of getting to a safe place where they can go to school and reunite with their families. They put their lives at risk, crossing rivers, running to catch and climb onto the top of the beast, the dangerous and ferocious train that takes them closer and closer to the United States each day. The children fight against the heat, hunger, and rain. They rely on the kindness of strangers to eat, and they don't give up. They keep moving forward. The book puts a human face to unaccompanied minors crossing into the United States and takes the reader on the journey with the migrant children. Your Name is a Song by Jamila Tompkins Bigelow and illustrated by Luisa Uribe. Grades kinder through third. After school, Cora Jalimuso expresses to her mom that she feels sad because no one can pronounce her name, including her teacher. Mom encourages her daughter to sing her name to show others how to say her name correctly. Mom also describes the beauty and magnificence of people's names by singing names from different cultures. Readers gain an understanding that pronouncing people's names correctly is respectful to the individual and their culture. Sugar and Milk by Treti Umrigar, illustrated by Kwao Lei. Grades kinder through fourth. A young immigrant girl is feeling lonely for her homeland, so her aunt takes her for a walk in the park and recounts a story of Persian refugees who fled many years ago to India. At first, the local king did not want to allow them to stay, showing them a glass full of milk to indicate that his country couldn't accommodate them. But one of the refugees showed that a full glass of milk still has room for a spoonful of sugar. His message was clear: just like sugar and milk, we will sweeten your lives with our presence. Her aunt's story lets the young girl see her own immigrant journey through new eyes. The Fighting Infantryman, the story of Albert D.J. Cashier, transgender Civil War soldier by Rob Sanders and illustrated by Nabi Ali. Grades first through fourth. Albert D.J. Cashier migrated from Ireland to the United States. He worked strenuous male-dominated jobs and even fought in the Union Army. Sometime after the war, he needed medical treatment and it became known he was born female. The military suspended his pension and he was forced to wear women's clothing. Many of his fellow soldiers successfully advocated for him to be treated as the honorable soldier he always was. The Paper Boat, a Refugee Story by Tao Lam, grades first through fourth. Using paper collage panels in this wordless book, Lam visually tells the semi-autobiographical story of her family fleeing Vietnam after the Vietnam War. At the beginning of their journey, the family follows a trail of ants and finds their escape boat. Lam substitutes the family for ants as they embark on a traumatic journey across the sea. The family experiences choppy seas, storms, and a seagull attack. Lam shares how, in her research, she found commonalities between ants and refugees. Both are resilient, hardworking, contribute to society, and have to start all over when their homes are destroyed. Becoming Miss Navajo by Jolana Begay-Kropa. Second through fifth. Using pictures from the 2001 to 2002 Miss Navajo Nation competition, Begay-Kropa shares what it takes to become Miss Navajo. She learns Navajo culture, history, and customs from her mother and grandmother, and how to speak, read, and write the Navajo language through the Navajo Language Immersion Program. Begay-Kropa knows that Miss Navajo represents and advocates for the Navajo people, as well as promotes Kye, which references the establishment of familiar and clan relationships. Begay-Kropa shares her experience of being in the 4-day competition and crowning of Miss Navajo, what and who inspires her, the responsibilities of Miss Navajo, and the lasting impacts of being crowned Miss Navajo. We Are Still Here, Native American Truths Everyone Should Know by Tracy Sorrell and illustrated by Frene Lissac, grades 3 to 5th. It's Indigenous Peoples Day, and 12 Native students are giving presentations about laws, policies, struggles, and victories in Native life. For example, Winona presents about assimilation in boarding schools, while Maya talks about religious freedom. Each section ends with the affirmation, "We are still here." Back matter includes further information about each topic, a timeline, and a glossary. Charuco, Peruvian archaeologist Julio C. Tello, by Monica Brown, illustrated by Elisa Chavarri, and translated by Adriana Dominguez. 3rd through 6th. Charuco means brave in the indigenous language of Quechua, and that was the nickname given to Julio C. Teo. His nickname fit him well. As a young boy, Charuco was not afraid of exploring dark caves or the ancient cemeteries in the Andes of Peru. Charuco's indigenous family told him at a young age about his ancestors, the Incas. Charuco developed a great love for his ancestors, their art, culture, technology, and language. He worked hard to get his education and dedicated his life to exploring and keeping the historical treasures of his ancestors in Peru. Dig in and discover one of the most important archaeologists in the Americas. Ancestor Approved, edited by Cynthia Lytick Smith. Grades 4 through 6. The 18 intersecting stories and poems by Native writers in this collection all take place when families gather for an intertribal powwow in Michigan. Themes include tribal enrollment issues, microaggressions by people appropriating Native culture, the importance of family and friendship, and supporting community. The collection was created in partnership with We Need Diverse Books and contains pieces from both well-known and emerging writers. While I Was Away by Waka T. Brown. 4th through 7th. Brown shares her experience of her Japanese immigrant parents sending her from Kansas to Japan to live with her grandma, attend school, and learn Japanese, kanji, and about where her parents grew up. While there are challenges such as the culture shock, the bullying by classmates, and meeting her reserved grandmother, Brown learns more about herself and the people around her as she and her grandmother grow closer. This is a memoir about family and ancestry, multicultural navigation, grief, empathy, and identity. Our last book in this section is All 13, The Incredible Cave Rescue of the Thai Boys Soccer Team by Christina Soontornvat, 4th through 8th grade. On June 23, 2018, in northern Thailand, 12 boys on the Wild Boars soccer team decided to take a field trip to a nearby cave. As they went deeper into the cave, they didn't realize a heavy rain had started to come down outside, flooding the passage and blocking their way out. You may have heard what happened next. For 17 days, an international rescue operation was broadcast on TV. The best cave divers and engineers were brought to the site, while the boys underground were fighting their own battle to keep mentally and physically strong. Learn more about the story and people involved when you read All 13. So I will stop there and pass it over to my friend, Tanya.
Thank you, Kimberly. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Tanya, and I am a bilingual Spanish librarian, Spanish-speaking librarian with School Corps. And I am going to share some books about government, politics, and social justice. So I will go ahead and share my screen. All right, here we are. And hopefully you can see that okay. All right, so the first book I have here is The Library Bus by Brahm Rahman and illustrated by Gabriel Brimard, grades kinder through 2nd grade. And this is 5-year-old Badi, and she joins her mom as she drives a library bus through the mountains, villages, and refugee camps in Afghanistan. And young girls from remote parts of the country eagerly wait for the library bus. For many of them, it is their only access to education. Badi's mom shares that long ago, girls in Afghanistan were not allowed to learn to read or write. Badi knows that she'll be able to go to school in the city when she's older, but she's concerned about the girls in the villages. Mom assures Badi that she will continue to bring the library bus to them at least once a week and will help them to learn as much as she can, as her grandpa once did for her. And the next book is Sometimes We March, Sometimes People March, written and illustrated by Tessa Allen. and for grades kinder through second, and colorful illustrations of historical movements, diverse characters, and simple text describe to young readers why people march and the different actions people take to resist injustice. The book acknowledges why it can be challenging to keep marching and that there is strength in numbers. Okay, and the next book is Kamala Harris, Rooted in Justice, for grades 1 through 4. And it is written by Nikki Grimes and illustrated by Laura Freeman. And after a hard day at school, a young Black girl comes home and expresses her frustration. She wants to be president one day, but a boy in her class told her that girls can't be president. The girl's mom proceeds to tell her about her daughter, about Kamala Harris, and from the time she was a baby until the time she runs for office, and then decides to withdraw from the race. And readers learn that social justice and activism are at the core of every aspect of Kamala's life, and that she is still in the process of writing her American story. And Stand Up, Speak Up, a story inspired by the climate change revolution by Andrew Joyner, grades 2nd through 4th. And a young activist and many other kids stand up and speak up about climate change. And they march, they hold up signs and speak to large crowds. But when the activists, one of the young activists goes home, they are discouraged because they watch the news and they see the effects of climate change. And so they feel really anxious and they're unable to sleep, they're worried, and they're just thinking about climate change. And so they decide, when they wake up, they decide to start working locally to address climate change. And at the end of the book highlights several young activists and what they're doing so that their generation can have a safe and clean planet. She was the first, the trailblazing life of Shirley Chisholm. And this was for grades 2nd through 5th. And Shirley Chisholm was born to be a leader. As a young child, older kids followed her lead when they played in the neighborhood. Despite being in a large classroom of 100 children, she learned to read and write by the time she was 5 years old. In college, she could out-talk anyone in a debate. While many thought she would be a great politician, Shirley decided to make a difference in the world by becoming a school teacher. After work, she helped people in her community, so that their voices could be heard. When she felt it was the right time, she got involved in politics, and she got a seat in the New York State Assembly. Then she got a seat in Congress, and she even ran for president. She was the first Black person in the United States to run for president. She did not win the nomination, but her actions opened the door for others to run for president as well. Learn even more details about this fascinating, trailblazing woman when you read She Was the First. All right, the next book is Have I Ever Told You Black Lives Matter by Shani M. King, illustrated by Bobby C. Martin, grades 3rd through 7th. Lively text and colorful silhouettes spotlight Black lives from the present and the past, their contributions to society, and their dedication to social justice. Black activists, musicians, writers, athletes, scientists, journalists, and many other famous and not so widely known are part of this collection of Black excellence and resilience. The Talk, Conversations About Race, Love, and Truth. Editors Wade Hudson and Cheryl Willis Hudson, grades 5 and up. A group of award-winning children's and YA authors such as Renee Watson, Meg Medina, Grace Lynn, and Tracy Sorrell share short writings about race, identity, and self-esteem. Some of the contributions are written as letters or conversations addressing their own children, while others are written for a general audience. Topics include the history of racism, body positivity, the beauty of bilingualism, and preparing for encounters with law enforcement. All right, so now I will pass it on to my friend Kimberly. Kimberly, I think you're muted.
You are correct. I thought I hit the button. Okay, so hello, this is Kimberly. Can you hear me now? Okay, so this section is world history. There's around 4 books in this section, and we're going to start off with Nikki and Vera, A Quiet Hero of the Holocaust and the Children He Rescued by Peter Cease. And this is for 2nd through 5th grade, and it's a picture book. In 1938, Nicholas Winton was able to coordinate a secret plan of connecting 669 children to families in London to help those children escape danger in Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia. Verushka Vera Diamantova was one of those children after her parents made the difficult choice to connect her with Winton. This picture book follows Nikki and Vera's intertwined stories in a book that demonstrates the courage of individual and collective action, also emphasizing how some of these stories may still be hidden in history. Mexique by Maria Jose Ferrada and illustrated by Ana Peñas, translated by Elisa Amado, 2nd through 5th grade. In 1937, 456 children boarded the ship Mexique from Spain to Morelia, Mexico to escape the Spanish Civil War, though they would carry the experience of the war beyond their voyage. This emotional picture book follows the children on the boat who became refugees as they share their fears and hopes to be reunited with their families. We Must Not Forget, Holocaust Stories of Survival and Resistance by Deborah Hopkinson, 5th through 8th grade. Deborah Hopkinson researches primary sources and interviews people who lived through the Holocaust as Jewish children and teens, highlighting the humanity, aid, resilience, and compassion within the stories of survival. These stories are together another example of the importance of knowing our histories by showing the dangers of targeted and systemic hate while also emphasizing the power of everyday folks standing together against that hate. Our last book in this section is Chance, Escape from the Holocaust. This is by Uri Shulevitz, 5th through 8th grade. This illustrated memoir from Shulevitz describes how he, as a young child and his family, escaped from Warsaw in 1939 by traveling through the Soviet Union, Poland, and Germany before settling in Paris, France. In the face of hunger, anti-Semitism, and a lack of permanent housing, Shulevitz's mother inspires Shulevitz with her storytelling and encourages him to draw, inciting a passion that would help him survive and lead him to become an author and illustrator. See, and on the screen are some of his drawings from that time in Paris. Right. And so I will pass it over to Jackie now.
All right, we are almost done. Our last category for today is books about community. And so I'm going to share my screen again. Hopefully my slides won't freeze up this time. All right, let's make those nice and big. All right, so community, keeping the city going, written and illustrated by Brian Floca, grades pre-K through 2. The city is shut down mostly, and 2 children look out their window at the mostly empty streets. There they see that some people are still working. The delivery drivers, grocery store employees, sanitation and utility workers, and doctors and nurses. This ode to essential employees takes place early in the pandemic and has detailed drawings for children to peruse. Harlem Grown, How One Big Idea Transformed a Neighborhood by Tony Hillary, illustrated by Jesse Harland, grades K through 3. Nevaeh calls the vacant lot near PS 175 in Harlem the Haunted Garden. When Mr. Tony comes to volunteer at her school, he and the students clear out the trash, bring in new soil, and plant seedlings. Things don't always go smoothly, but they keep trying, and soon they've created an urban farm. The book concludes with gardening tips and a note from the author, who is the real Mr. Tony, with further information about the Harlem Grown project. Hello, Mandarin Duck by Bao Fei, illustrated by Dion MBD, grades pre-K through 2. While attending a May Day parade at the park, twins Hoa and Wei find a lost duck and try to help it find its way to the pond. Neighborhood friends and community members jump in to assist, all of them greeting the duck in their native languages, which include Dakota, Somali, Spanish, Hmong, Russian, Arabic, Vietnamese, and Karen. This title encourages both problem solving and welcoming newcomers. All right, so that is going to wrap up our presentation for you guys today. I'm going to stop sharing here so you can see us. This is the time, if you have any questions, to type them into the Q&A box. We will also in the chat be adding a link to the evaluation for this webinar. Like we said before, please fill that out. It helps us to improve our workshops. It also allows you to get a certificate of attendance saying that you were here today. And our assistant, Brendan, who makes the certificates, has asked me to let you guys know that he's a real person, not a computer. So when he actually hand makes the certificate for everybody, he adds your name and emails it to you directly. He'll email it to the address that you put in on the survey where you want it sent. But he says it usually takes a week or 2, so expect it within that time frame. And we will also send you a follow-up email afterwards, which has a link to the survey again, just in case you missed it. All of the links that we shared in this presentation, including the link to the YouTube channel for the library where this will be posted. All right, so somebody is asking, is the Wednesday workshop different from today's? Yes, so we covered kind of half of our topics today. The one on Wednesday will cover math and science and I think art and health and guidance. So yeah, different topics than today's. And looks like somebody is looking for the list of books, and looks like we can share with you the book list again. All right, we answered that one. Any other questions?
Hi, this is Kim. I'm seeing in the chat that the survey at the link doesn't include August 2nd, only August 4th and 6th. How would you like to deal with that?
How about I can get the person to fix it. So if you haven't filled it out already, you can hold off on filling it out for a couple minutes, and I will ask him to change that to August 2nd and August 4th. And if you already filled it out, no worries, we'll figure out what day. I mean, you're filling it out today, so we're going to figure that you were here today. But I can right now send a message to the person who is in charge of the survey and ask him to change it. Any other questions?
Yes, there's, this is Kim. There's a question of where people can sign up for Wednesday's class. We could put a link to that, right?
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna have Lindsay answer that question because I think that this is like a series and I feel like if you signed up for one, you're signed up for both. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So if you got the link to today's event, you can just click on that and it will take you into Wednesday's event also.
And then I see somebody else has, should we fill out the survey for both days? Yeah, so if you're attending today and on Wednesday as well, you can fill it out today and you'll get a certificate for today saying you were here for today's hour-and-a-half workshop. And then if you fill it out again on Wednesday, you'll get the same certificate, but you know, a separate one that you were there for an hour-and-a-half that day as well. So you get like double the hours if you come for both days. One question that will be on there is whether you prefer for these to be. In the past, we did these in person, and now we've been doing them in webinar during the times of COVID. So assuming that, fingers crossed, that COVID goes away, would you like to have them in person again, or do you prefer the webinar format? So that's one of the questions that you can answer on the evaluation. All right, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. I'm going to send that email to our website manager right now and ask him to change those dates to the 2nd and the 4th. So if you haven't filled out the survey yet, maybe he's usually pretty quick about things. So maybe wait a few minutes and refresh that page and hopefully it'll be updated with the new dates. Thank you for joining us today. Goodbye, everyone.